Chapter. Okay, recording, speaker view. Okay, any questions from last week? I know there was one from Radhika that I'll cover in a minute, but outside of that, any other questions? Okay, Radhika, do you remember your question? Do you want to repeat it so everybody can hear?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. How are you, Prabhuji?
Good, thank you. Radhika, you there? Okay, I guess she has gone away for a second. I'll repeat the question that she had asked. And the question basically she had asked was um, in reference to the behavior of Kaikeyi. And she said, is or was Kaikeyi not an eternal servant of Ram? And if she was an eternal servant, which means pure servant, then how could she become envious of the Lord and ask for something so harsh that not only he does not get the throne to the kingdom, but he also has to leave the kingdom for exile for 14 years. So I thought that was a really good question, and I wanted to. She asked me on WhatsApp, and so I thought I should repeat that because it's a very, very good question. So first of all, uh, yes, Kaikeyi is an eternal servant, and every time Lord Ram appears, she appears with him in the same role of a what you would call a stepmother. But she actually loved Lord Ram more than her own son Bharat, and that's the truth. So then the question was, then how could she become envious and how could she be misled by a servant in her household? So it's not a question of being misled. Before the Lord appears, whether he's appearing as Lord Krishna or he's appearing as Lord Ram, the Leelas, the pastimes, are decided. And he sends people accordingly. So you may recall that when Lord Krishna appeared, so many of the demigods had been ordered to appear in Yadu dynasty. And so many other eternal devotees like Nand Maharaj, Vasudev, Devaki, Yashoda Maya, etc., they were asked to appear. Similarly, for Lord Ram, all these devotees are ordered to appear. So, no question about being eternal servant. And whatever they do is according to the script that's written before the Lord appears. So, actually, there are two stories about Kaikeyi, why it caused her to do what she did. One is, and then different versions of Ramayana. One is that Kaikeyi's father, the king of the Kaikeyi province, when Maharaj Dashrath approached him for the hand of his daughter Kaikeyi, he said, I will give the hand of my daughter to you only if you promise to make her son the king, not any other queen's son. This is way before Lord Ram, Bharat, etc. were born. This is when the marriage is happening. And King Dashrath had said, yes, I will do that. So that was one in the background that Kaikeyi knew, but she had forgotten. And Dashrath also had kind of forgotten, but not really forgotten. The second version says that excuse me, few months before this pastime happened, Lord Ram actually went to the chambers of Mother Kaikeyi and said, I have an instruction for you, and gave this instruction that this is what you're going to do. So again, she was simply following the instruction of Lord Ram to do what she did. And that is something really only pure devotees can do. Imagine having to do something which is so painful and knowing that for the rest of eternity your name would be mud, which means people will be saying bad things about you. Knowing all that, still do it because the Lord wants you to do it. We have a similar situation in the Krishna Lila when Bhishma Pitama, a pure devotee, Mahajan actually, fought against Krishna. Same thing. A pastime that he's doing on the instructions of Lord Krishna. Similarly, Similarly, pure devotees like Jay and Vijay, when they were cursed, they came three times as Shishupal and Dantavakra and Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and Ravan and Kumbhakarna. And each time they were envious of the Lord. They fought against him. So again, part of the pastime. So Kaikeyi was simply performing the pastime as instructed and as scripted by the Lord. And that was it. So hopefully that answers that question in your mind also. And I don't know Radhika is back or not. Yeah, if that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
So, Prabhu,
Yes,
so we heard a different version of the same pastime.
it's possible. Yes.
What we heard was that Kaikeyi knew that Ram and Sita did not get any personal time to spend with each other, and that's why she became the cause, or she took all the blame of sending them to the forest so that they could spend some personal time together. Because here Ram was busy, managing the affairs of the kingdom. So this is what we heard.
Okay, that's possible. Like I said, there's so many versions of Ramayans that it is possible that one version says that. So thank you for sharing that. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Then,
So just
I'm sorry.
one
Go ahead.
yeah, so, yeah, on the same line as you mentioned, so it is also said that demigod were afraid that Lord Ram will, will not go out and Ravana will not be killed. So the demigod through Saraswati and all that you mentioned last time.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So that's another one. Yes.
so again, another way, the demigods were also they were also instrumental.
But her Radhika's question was, why would demigods be able to influence a pure devotee? So yes, we had talked about the demigod's plan,
Yeah.
and it's very clearly in Ramcharitmanas and Valmiki Ramayana. But her question was, why would they be able to influence her?
Yeah.
So hopefully I've answered that. Okay, so then I'll move on to the plan for tonight, which is to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
I'm sorry, 1 second.
I'm sorry.
Prabhuji, I don't know if it's a silly question or what, but like you just compared Bhishma Pitama and Krishna Lila to Mother Kaikeyi. So for Bhishma Pitama, we see that at the end, Krishna also glorified him while he was leaving the body. He said nice things about him. So his image is kind of still okay amongst us, right? We still respect him. But for Mother Kaikeyi, when Lord Ram came back, why did he not say anything, or why is it not documented, or why her image is tarnished forever?
Yeah, well, actually, um, two things. One is that Lord Ram never allowed anyone to blaspheme Mother Kaikeyi when he was in the forest. That's one thing. Second thing is when they returned from the forest, who do you think was the first mother that he went to?
Mother
Kaikeyi, representing that, look, I respect you. I mean, you did what you were supposed to do. There's absolutely no hard feelings, and we love you, we respect you, and everything is fine.
But I think like Vishnu Pitama made it clear that he is he is Kal and everything is happening because of him. So either Mother Kaikeyi did not she did not say anything like that. So the blame still remains on her instead of that it was Lord Ram's wish.
Yeah, so I mean, remember the role of women and men in those days was very different, right? She couldn't have invited or said things that Vishwadama said about Lord Ram. Whatever she said was within the confines of the palace and to her immediate family. So she wasn't going around preaching, right? Sages were not coming to visit her, all those kind of things, right? So different circumstances.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Okay, anyone else? All right, then I'll move on. I'll still continue with the theme of Maryada. Does anybody remember what we define Maryada as, the meaning of the word Maryada?
To be in the boundaries of the
That was
dharma.
one, yeah, sure. Boundaries. What else?
To abide by all the laws.
The rules, yes, yes. So there's
It
etiquette,
also said etiquette. Yeah.
that traditions. So we'll continue with that theme. We'll talk about not just Lord Ramchandra, how he was observing all these etiquettes and traditions and rules and boundaries, but also um, other characters in Lord Ram's pastimes, how they were observing the same kind of Maryada. So first we'll start with uh, Lord Ram still, but now I want to talk about as a brother how he kept the Maryada. So there is actually the very first Sanskrit verse in Ayodhya Kand of Ramayana is one of the two verses in Sanskrit that are considered to be Lord Ram's Pranami mantras. So the first one is saying basically when the sage Vashishta, who was the Kul Guru of Rahu dynasty, he had the conversation with King Dashrath about coronating Lord Ram. He's the one, Vashishta was the one who went to Ram's room and gave him the news that he's going to be coronated next day. And they had some conversation, and Vashishta Muni gave some lessons or teachings, you could say, to Lord Ram, and then he left. Now, you would expect that somebody who has just been told, by the way, Lord Ram was 27 years old, very, very young. You would expect someone like that to be very happy, jump with joy, jump up and down with joy, and Yahoo and whatever, shout, make some noises. But on the contrary, Lord Ram cried. He cried for a very long time in the night. And he kept asking himself, I don't understand. We are four brothers. Four brothers. We were born of the same sweet rice, payas as you call it, payasam. Same father. We were born on the same day. We were born in the same house. Our name giving ceremony was on the same day. Our schooling same time. Our wedding happened at the same time. Then I don't understand, why is the throne being given only to me? Why is it not being given to all four of us? And there's a comment that says, that is the beginning of Ram Rajya. As opposed to Ravan Rajya, where in Ravan Rajya everybody wants power for themselves. His Lord Ram, he wants to share it with his four brothers. He's saying they all are equally deserving. That shows his mood and his care for his brother. And when the Kaikeyi episode happened and Lord Ram was told by Kaikeyi actually that Bharat will become the king, instead of being sorry, he was thrilled. He says, this is great. What a great news, mother. Thank you so much. Bharat is the one who deserves to be the king. And then when Kaikeyi said, no, there's one more thing. And he said, what's that? And he said, you have to go to the forest for 14 years. And he was not at all aggrieved to hear that. He said, thank you, mother. This is a great opportunity for me to go to the forest and associate with the sages there. Otherwise, I would never get that opportunity. And when he said goodbye to King Dashrath, his father, he said, Father, don't worry. 14 years will pass like 14 days. Please do not worry. I'm going, I'll be back before you can blink. 14 years will be gone. That was his attitude. That was his mood and his love for his brothers. Well, what about his brothers? So let's take Lakshman, let's talk about Lakshman first. As a brother, Well, we all know that when Mother Sita heard, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, that Ram was going to go to the forest, she said, I'm coming with you. I'm your wife. We went around the fire and we made a vow to each other that we will never leave each other's company until death do us apart, or whatever that is. And so I'm not staying here. I'm coming with you, which makes sense. The wife is obliged sort of to go with her. But there's no requirement, there's no rule, there's no bylaw, there's no law that says a brother has to go also. But Lakshmana said, I can't. I have only one role in my life, and that is serve you. I don't know anything else. So therefore, my dear brother, I'm coming with you, you like it or not. And there was no talking him out of this. And he went. He accompanied Ram in the mood of a servant. Like he would clear the path of any pebbles, any thorns, or any twigs or branches or whatever, so Lord Ram can walk now without getting hurt, without stepping on a stone or a thorn. And wherever they stayed, he would very quickly make a hut, and he'll make the bed out of the leaves and dry grass and all those kind of things, and he'll stand outside as a god all night. And this was not the first night, second night, third night, fourth night. For 14 years. That's almost how many nights would that be? Almost 50,000 nights in a row. He did not sleep. That was his mood. And as you know, I think we discussed that last week, that when Lord Ram left, he got to the first forest, he met a person by the name of Nishad Raj, which was the king of the Nishads. His name was Guha. So Guha helped, he made friends with Lord Ram, and he helped Lakshmana serve Ram by making the hut and the bed and all that. And then they both sat outside the hut as a god, and they started having a conversation. And basically Nishad Raj was asking, what happened. So Lord Lakshmana told him the whole thing, Kaikeyi episode and everything else, how it was the day before the coronation and all these things happened. So Nishad Raj was very upset. So he started to blaspheme Kaikeyi. And Lord Lakshmana shut him up. And he explained to him the law of karma. And I'm going to sing this chaupai, the verse from Ramcharitmanas. It says, Kahu na ko sukh dukh kar data, nij krit karam bhog sab bhrata, hoy vivek moh bhram bhaga, tab raghunath charananu raga, सखा परम पर मारथ एहु, मन क्रम वचन राम पद नेहु. He said, my dear friend, nobody can be blamed for whatever happens to somebody else. We are all paying for our karmas, whether it's the happiness or distress. It's all coming because of our karmas. Nobody can be blamed for this. And he said that only when illusions like this go away, then and then only we are able to have love for Krishna, attachment for the lotus feet of Lord, I should say Ram. Then and then only we can have the attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. So please get rid of these illusionary thoughts and ideas and understand what are the real reasons for this is happening. And only when you do that, then you will understand that the best kind of activities for us is to serve the Lord by mind, body and speech. So like real philosophy Lord Lakshmana is giving to Nishadhar, which satisfied him, and then they were fine after that. And if I go back just a little bit, when King Dashrath and Kaikeyi were telling, actually Kaikeyi was doing the telling and Dashrath was just sitting there, crying and with his head bowed down. Kaikeyi was saying that you have to go to the forest and Bharat is going to become the king. Lakshmana was hearing this. And he said to Ram, you don't have to listen to Kaikeyi. And he said, no. Lord Ram said, no, I'm not listening to her. I am listening to my father. It is his order now. And you know what Lakshmana said? Lakshmana said, my dear brother, if you give me permission, I'll chop off the head of my own father, so that you no longer have to get an order from him. And then you're free, you don't have to listen to Kaikeyi. Father is not alive anymore, and you can stay here. That was loyalty to his brother. And talking about etiquette, he considered Mother Sita as his mother. And I'll talk about that, how that happened, or some details about that. So, as you know, as Ravana was kidnapping Mother Sita, she was crying, and when she knew that there's no way, no escape from Ravan, she said, at least let me leave some hints so my husband can find out which way he's taken me. So she was throwing her jewelry down and fell on a mountain where Sugriva was living. They picked it up, and when Lord Ram came, he showed all those jewelry to Lord Ram, said, does this belong to Mother Sita? And Lord Ram asked Lakshman, what do you think? And Lakshman said, my dear brother, I can only recognize the jewelry that she was wearing below her ankles, because I never looked up above her ankles. So that was the etiquette that he was observing. So what about the other brother, Bharat? As you know, Bharat was not present in Ayodhya. He was in his what's known as Nanihal, which is his mother's place, the Kaikeyi Desh, when all this happened. So when King Dasharatha died, Sage Vashisht sent some soldiers, said, go quickly and bring Bharat back. So Bharat came back, and he was taken directly to Kaikeyi's chambers. And Kaikeyi very excitedly, in a very happy mood, told her what she had done. And expecting now Bharat to jump up and down with joy and thank her for doing this. But totally on the contrary, Bharat was extremely angry. And even a person like Bharat used some really bad language to Kaikeyi. So there are some Hindi words that I have to use, but I will translate them as soon as I use them. So first he called her Kumata, which means a very, very bad mother. And he said, why did your heart not break into a million pieces as soon as you even thought of this bad benediction? How can you survive? How can your heart survive something like this? He said, why did your tongue not fall off? And then he said an expression in Hindi which is very popular, and I'll translate that. He says, तुम्हारे मुंह में कीड़े क्यों नहीं पड़ गए? He says, why did you not get all these insects in your mouth? Because it is the rotten place where the insects belong. He said, how can you see Ram, whom everyone sees as their most lovable personality? Everybody loves Ram, but you see him as your enemy? And he said, it's another one which is in Hindi which says, अपने मुंह में कालिक क्यों नहीं पोतली? He says, why did you not put black ink on your face? And why don't you do that and get out of my sight? I don't want to see you anymore. And he started crying. He says, why did God give me a mother like you? A mother who's opposed to my brother Ram. Who can be a sinner like you? I'm ashamed to call you my mother. However, although he did all this, which is not quite according to the etiquette, he did not quite forget the etiquette, because Shatrughna, the youngest brother, came when he found out that Manthara, the servant, the hunchback servant, had incited Kaikeyi to act like this. He kicked her. He kicked the maid servant on the hunchback itself so hard that she went flying to the other side of the room, and her hunchback broke. And Bharat stopped him immediately and said, "No, you do not kick a woman." So even at that time of anger, he didn't forget the etiquette. Anyway, then after the meeting with Kaikeyi, Bharat Maharaj went to Mother Kaushalya, who was crying. But as soon as she saw Bharat, she got up, embraced Bharat and said, "Congratulations, you're going to be the king." And she said, "It is my mistake that all these problems are happening." And Bharat said, "No, why do you say that? It's my fault. It is, you can blame me because of me all this has happened. If I wasn't on this earth, none of that will happen." And he would not let Kaushalya accept any blame. He said, "No, 100% of the blame belongs to me. Not Kaikeyi, not Kaushalya, not anybody else. It's all because of me. She did it for me. I am the one to blame." And he said, "But I'm not accepting the throne. I'm going to go and get my brother Ram back." And he wouldn't listen to anybody. He just collected some people. Actually, everybody in Ayodhya said, "We are coming with you." So the whole Ayodhya and then the whole army went with Bharat to get Lord Ram back. On the way, Guha, the Nishad Raj, he saw them coming. The first he thought Bharat is coming to attack Lord Ram. So he prepared his army, as small as it was, to fight with Bharat. Then he said, "Let me at least check." And he checked the mood of Bharat, found out no, he's a brother and acting as a brother. He's come here to get Lord Ram back. Then of course they became friends. And then Guha was taking him where Ram was. On the way he would show trees under which Lord Ram had slept. And Bharat would simply cry that this is the prince. He was going to be the king. He's used to all the comforts of a palace. He comes from a royal family and he was sleeping under the tree, and he'd start crying every time he saw a tree or a place where Lord Ram had slept. Well, so the whole army proceeded, and of course it's hundreds of thousands of army and other people, if not in millions. There's a lot of dust in the air. So Lord Ram said to Lakshman, "Hey, find out what's going on." So Lakshman climbed up a tree and he saw Bharat coming with the whole army. The flags of Ayodhya were there, and the chariots and elephants and horses, the whole army coming. And he got very angry. He said, "It looks like our brother Bharat is coming to attack us. He thinks we are alone. He can beat us, he can kill us and keep the kingdom to himself." He said, "My dear brother Ram, don't worry. I alone can kill the entire army of Ayodhya. Don't worry." And Lord Ram smiled and he said, "No, Bharat. No, Lakshman. Bharat will not do anything like that. Bharat will not become mad or arrogant because he may become a king. Even if you gave him the post of Brahma or Vishnu or Mahesh, he will never become like that. He will never go mad with power." He says, "It is possible that the darkness will envelope the afternoon sun, or I should say noontime sun." He said, "Sage Agastya may drown in water," and the story behind that is that Agastya once drank the entire ocean. He said, "Sage Agastya may drown in the water contained in the hoof prints of a cow, or the earth may get rid of its quality of tolerance, or a mosquito may blow away the tallest mountain, but Bharat will never be proud of his power. He'll never be proud of the kingdom, or the throne I should say." He said, my brother Lakshman, I swear to you, on myself and our father, Bharat will never do that." Then finally Bharat showed up. He offered his obeisances and there was a dialogue. And Bharat said, "My dear brother Ram, I have brought all the paraphernalia to do what's called Raj Tilak, which is the coronation ceremony. We'll do it right here. And let's do that and you come back to Ayodhya, please. And Lord Ram said, no, but there's this benediction and my father has given the word. And Bharat said, my dear brother Ram, allow me and Shatrughna to stay in the forest for 14 years. You, Lakshman and Sita go back to Ayodhya. So the benediction will still be applicable. And then Lord Ram was shaking his head, no, I can't do that. He said, okay, if that's not acceptable, let all three of us, my brother Lakshman, my brother Shatrughna and me, let us stay in the forest and you return to Ayodhya with Sita. That was the mood of sacrifice that Bharat was making. When Lord Ram will not agree no matter what anybody said, then Bharat said, look, fine, you don't want to come back, don't come back. But do not expect me to sit on the throne. I will govern Ayodhya on your behalf, so please give me your sandals. I'll put them on the throne and on your behalf I will rule or govern Ayodhya. But however, I'm not sleeping in the palace. I'll sleep in the same type of hut that you'll be sleeping in for 14 years, and I will eat barley cooked in cow urine, because that's the kind of food you'll also get. So I'm not having anything better than you do. And then he said, my dear brother, you can go. However, your limit is 14 years. If you're late by 1 day, I will kill myself. So that's on you. And Ram said, yeah, okay, I got it. And changing the topic, the Maryada of a husband. So Lord Ram as a husband. We all know this story, so I won't get into the details. But as Lord Ram was passing through the forest known as Dandak Aranya, which is forest of Dandak, all the sages were so taken by the beauty of Lord Ram, they actually made an offer to Lord Ram that they wanted to have a conjugal relationship with him. And Ram smiled and he said, you see this woman here? She's my wife. And in this incarnation, I have taken a vow of being a one-woman man. That's it. So therefore, I cannot accept your offer. Seeing the disappointment on their faces, Lord Ram said, but don't worry. In the next age, Dwapar, I will come as Krishna, and at that time, I will accept your offer. You appear at that time as the gopis. So a lot of gopis during Lord Krishna's last Lila time were these sages that had taken birth as the gopis to be able to have the conjugal affair with Lord Krishna at that time, with Lord Ram. Similarly, there's another story about Sati, the wife of Lord Shiva. They were one place sitting there having a conversation, and they saw from a distance Lord Ram and Lord Lakshman were walking barefoot, and at that time they were looking for Mother Sita. So she said to her husband Lord Shiva, I want to go and meet with them. And he said, it's not an appropriate time. This is what has happened and they're busy. Don't disturb them. He said, no. You know what? I'm looking at them and they're crying like ordinary men. My Lord Ram will not cry like that. It doesn't make any sense. He's supposed to be Atma Ram, which means totally self-satisfied. He's supposed to be unattached. How can the Lord be attached to his wife so much? No, it's not Lord Ram, some ordinary person. And Lord Shiva said, my dear Sati, listen to me, do not try to test my Lord Ram. You will be sorry. She said, okay, fine, I won't do that. So Lord Shiva closed his eyes, went back to meditation. And Mother Sati, being very curious, she changed her form to look exactly like Mother Sita and sat down in a place where she knew Lord Ram and Lakshman would pass by. So, and she waited, and sure enough, they came that way. As soon as they saw Mother Sati in the form of Mother Sita, Lord Ram offered his obeisances and called out to her, Mother Sati, please accept our humble obeisances. So she realized that the Lord had recognized her, she was very embarrassed. She simply got up and walked away and went back to Lord Shiva. Of course, Lord Shiva knows everything, so he knew what had happened, but he pretended not to know. So he said, "So, you saw the Lord? Everything okay?" She said, "Oh yeah, that's okay, no problem. They were on their way. I did not disturb them, and everything was okay." But Lord Shiva, of course, knew what had happened, and he said in his heart that my wife has taken the role of my mother Sita. So our relationship from today on changes to mother and son, no longer husband and wife. And because she cannot live with me like that, one day soon she'll have to leave her body. And then you know the story about Sati giving her body. We have discussed that in the past. One final episode about the Maryada as a husband was Indra, one of his sons is known as Jayant. And for some silly reason, he decided to test the patience of Lord Ram. So he took the form of a crow and started to, fly around where they were sitting. And it was fine. Lord Ram didn't care, Mother Sita didn't care. And then he came and sat down by the lotus feet of Mother Sita. Okay, that was fine too. But then he got a little bold and he came near her, her lotus feet, and actually bit it with his beak so hard that it was bleeding. So of course Mother Sita went, ouch. Lord Ram noticed and he saw the blood coming out. That made him angry. So he took a blade of straw, kusha grass, dry kusha grass, blade of straw, and he threw it towards the crow. The crow saw this blade of grass coming his way. In fear, he ran away. And he flew away. And he flew all over the universe. But whenever he turned around, there was this blade of grass not too far from him. So he went to his own father, Indra, and said, "Please save me." And Indra said, "I can't, not from the blade of grass that Lord Ram has sent." So he said, "What do I do?" He said, "Go to Lord Brahma." Lord Brahma said, "Go back to Mother Sita, apologize." He came flying back, apologized. Then Lord Ram said, "Okay, fine." He withdrew the blade of the grass. So again, as a husband, he was there to protect. Changing topic again. Actually, I'm very conscious of the time because I've talked about Lord Hanuman also. So I'm going to talk about a couple of devotees. One is Shaburi. Again, very briefly, she was a princess, a queen actually, who because of her status was not able to associate with the devotees, the saints, the sages, or become detached and live in a forest. So she prayed to the Lord that my next birth, please make me ugly, or because of her beauty, people used to just come and watch her. So she was never alone. She said, "Please make me ugly and put me in a forest, in a maybe even poor family or whatever, so I can have the association of the sages." So next birth, she was born as the daughter of a Nishats, actually, the Bhil, I don't know, a tribe, basically a tribal community. She was born there. And when she was 13 years old, her father decided to get her married. And for the marriage, they had, some places had thousands of goats and cows, some places had hundreds of them. Regardless, she could not tolerate the idea of so many animals being sacrificed in her wedding, so she ran away from home. And she came to another different forest by Pampa Sarovar, which is a very famous pond, a lake. And she started asking all the sages who were there to accept her as a disciple. And nobody would do that. So finally she went to Matanga Rishi and he agreed. Even though he was criticized by many, his fellow rishis and sages, but he accepted her. And he gave her the education on self-realization. And then it was time for him to leave his body. And she said, "Please allow me to leave this body with you." And he said, "No, you stay here. The personality you have been worshipping all this time, Lord Ram, will one day come your way." And she said, "How would I know? It's my Ram." He said, "The first person that enters your hut, you should know that that's Ram." So she waited 40 years. And those 40 years, every night she will clear the path where the sages will be going. And actually, they got upset because they were not sure who's cleaning it. So one day they watched early in the morning. They saw this was this low-class woman. They got very angry that you're not allowed to do that. And so she continued to do that anyway. And then Lord Ram came and she offered him berries. But these berries she had eaten to make sure, so she said taste it, to make sure they're sweet. If they were not sweet enough, she'll throw them away. So when Lord Ram came, she gave him a seat and offered these berries and said, I have made sure they're sweet for you. Lord Ram took and said, I have never tasted berries as sweet as this one. He thanked her, and he offered, or rather indicated to Lakshman to take one, who refused. He said, no, this is as in Skan we say muchi, in Hindi we say juta, which means she has already tasted it. And he threw them away. Later on, it is explained that when the battle was over with Ravan, Lakshman was asked Ram a question. He said, we were both fighting Meghnath, the son of Ravan, and he was throwing the same kind of arrows on you and me, but I became unconscious and you were not. So what's the secret behind that? And he said, the berries that we ate, offered by Shabri, they became my shield. So whatever arrows he was throwing, they were shielding me. But you didn't have those berries in your body. Therefore, you did not have the shield. However, some of those same berries that you threw away somehow ended up on a mountain that Hanuman brought the Sanjeevani booty from, the medicine from. And it was those berries that had turned into some kind of a medicine, the herbs, that saved your life. So that's the significance of a devotee. Another devotee that is very famous is Vibhishan, who basically left his brother, the kingdom of Lanka, and took shelter of Lord Ram, totally surrendering. So when that happened, of course, there was a lot of, I'm rushing the story, a lot of objection from the monkeys and the other soldiers, but Lord Ram said, no, he has taken my shelter, I will give him shelter. And not only that, because he has surrendered, I will give him the kingdom of Lanka after I kill Ravan. And somebody said, my dear Lord, that's fine, but I'm sorry. And then Lord Ram added that even if Ravan surrenders to me, I will do the same treatment with him. So somebody said, but my dear Lord, you have already given Lanka to Vibhishan. If Ravan surrenders, what will you give him? And Lord Ram said, I will give him the kingdom of Ayodhya. And somebody said, but wait a minute, that kingdom you have already given to your brother Bharat. What will you do then? And he said, I will give Bharat the kingdom of Vaikuntha. And somebody said, but you are the king of the Vaikuntha, where will you go? And Lord Ram said, I will seat myself in the heart of Hanuman.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
That's the importance of a devotee in the heart of the Lord.
Very nice.
Final story about the Maryada of a devotee. So this one, Lord Ram was very, very young, like maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. He was playing with his friends, and King Dasharatha came to the palace after finishing his work. He went straight to the chambers of Mother Kaushalya and said, Kaushalya, I'm very hungry. I want food now. And she said, okay, I'm putting the plates together. Please go and get Ram also, so he'll eat with you. So King Dasharatha went out and started calling for Ram's name. Said, my dear Ram, please come. It's time to honor Prasadam. Please come, we'll honor it together. But Lord Ram completely ignored his father. He was busy playing with his friends. He didn't even hear that his father was calling. He tried many times to call his name, but Lord Ram completely ignored him. So Dasharatha went back and told Kaushalya, look, give me food. I'm so hungry. Ram's not listening to me. So leave him alone, let him play. give me prasadam to honor. She said, no, I can't do that. And she ran out to call Ram. And as soon as she called Ram, he came back immediately. He said, yes, mother. She said, let's go and honor prasadam with your father. And he came right away. Now, this is a story that needs some analysis. Why was when Dashrath calling Lord Ram, he didn't come? But as soon as Kaushalya called, he came immediately. So what's the reason? Well, the saints have given a few reasons actually. One reason given is that Jnana and Vairagya, they are represented by male figures. And Dashrath was a male figure. Therefore, by ignoring King Dashrath's calling of him, Lord Ram is saying, you cannot get me by Jnana and Vairagya, which is the knowledge and the renunciation. Bhakti is represented by woman. But when you call me with bhakti, I'll come right away. So Kaushalya was representing bhakti. When she called, Ram came right away. Excuse me. And he said, the sages also explained further that whether you're brahmachari or sannyasi or what, it doesn't matter. You will not attain Lord Ram's lotus feet until you bathe yourself in the dust of the lotus feet of a devotee. Then only Ram will come. Okay, what was the second reason? Dashrath had just come from the court that he was running. He was dressed like a king. And therefore he was in the mood of a king when he called Ram. And Ram ignored him, basically saying, as long as you keep thinking you're a king or you're this or that designation, I'm not coming. And that's why in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Partatva Nirmalam Nishikesh Sevnam Bhakti Uchite. He says the basic definition is that you first get rid of your designations. I'm a king, I'm an emperor, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, whatever. Give up all those designations. Your only designation is you are the eternal servant of Krishna. That's it. Another reason. Dashrath was walking like a king slowly, waddling to call Ram. But Kaushalya ran to him with great enthusiasm, saying, Ram, please come, Ram. And again, going back to Nectar of Instruction now with Rupa Goswami, what does he say? What is it? Verse number 3, Nectar of Instruction. Utsahat nishchayat dharyat tat karma parivartanat. Utsahat means with great enthusiasm we have to serve Krishna. So there she was with great enthusiasm running towards Ram, saying, please come, with all that excitement in her voice. And finally, why was Dashrath calling Ram? Because Dashrath was hungry. And he wanted prasadam for himself. And calling Ram just became a condition put by Kaushalya. But why was Kaushalya calling Ram? She was calling him because she wanted to feed him. In other words, if we serve Ram for his pleasure, he will come. If we serve Ram for our pleasure, he will not come. Very simple. You want him, you serve him for his pleasure. And that's why Lord Chaitanya in the Shikshashtakam, the verse number 8, he says, Ashishiva padratam punastumam adarshanain mamahatam karotuva yatha tathava vidhatu lampato mama pranathastu saev napara. He says, it doesn't matter how you deal with me. You embrace me, you reject me, you push me away, it doesn't matter. Under all circumstances, you are my one and only Lord. When you have in that mood, that kind of love for him, Ram comes, Krishna comes. If you call them for our interest, they may fulfill our material desires but will not come. But they will come if we please him by our service, then they will come. Okay, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to really make it fast. But there are a few more points that I want to make on Maryada. So now let's talk about Sumitra. Like that's one queen that we very rarely talk about. So now imagine the scene. All the 4 brothers have gotten married in Mithila and they've all come to Ayodhya. Now in India, there is a ceremony when the wife comes for the first time to the house of the husband. This was known as Muh Dikhai. Muh means face, Dikhai means to see. So there's a ceremony where the bride sits down with a big veil on her face, and all these women come, they lift the veil, they see his face, they give some gift or blessings, they go away. So that was going on, and Sumitra came. So she lifted the veil of Mother Sita, looked at the beautiful face, lotus-like face of Mother Sita, and she said, I'm going to give you my son as a gift to you. In other words, he will serve you all the time. And when they were leaving for the forest, Lord Lakshman went to his mother Sumitra to say goodbye. And Sumitra asked Lakshman to sit down. She says, I want you to know something. She said, know always that Ram is your father now. Sita is your mother now. Our Puri, the Ayodhya, is where Ram resides. So wherever there is Ram, that is Ayodhya for you. You have no business in this Ayodhya without Ram. And all your relationships are through Ram, so go serve Ram and Sita. And then she said, that really, made me very emotional. She said, fortunate is the woman whose son is Ram. Whose son is Ram Bhakta, the devotee of Ram. Otherwise, it is better to be barren. That was she was saying, I am very lucky I have you as my son, and that's why I'm telling you to be a devotee of Ram. And then final instruction was, my dear Lakshman, my dear son, only do in the forest what pleases Ram and Sita, nothing else. Finally, Maryada of a wife, Mother Sita. When she found out her husband is leaving, she wanted to leave with him. When Lord Ram told her not to go with her, and that she belongs in the palace, that has been her upbringing, she said, how can I sleep in the palace when you are in the forest? I belong where you are. She said, don't worry, I'll clean the grounds so there's no thorn for you to walk on. And when Ravan kidnapped her, he showed her his opulence, and she had absolutely zero interest in any of his opulences. And she was ready to give up her life in Ashok Vatika, where she was placed by Ravan, and that is when the other devotee, Hanuman, showed up at Ashok Vatika. So I'm going to pause because now there's a switch in the topic, and I'm going to ask you if you have any questions or comments before I start talking about Lord Hanuman.
Why don't we talk about Lakshman's wife also, Prabhu? She also gave her life like when Lakshman was away, right? So why only Ram, Sita, Lakshman are being talked about?
So, sorry, who's that being talked about? I'm sorry about that.
Urmila.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's wife. Yes. So that's a very good question. However, those who know, they really admire Urmila's sacrifice, which was actually, when you think about it, bigger than Mother Sita's sacrifice.
Yep.
At least she spent those 14 years with her husband. Urmila did not have a husband. And by the way, Urmila never slept on a bed for those 14 years. And I also read someplace that Urmila also did not sleep for those 14 years. So she made great sacrifices. But because this is mostly Ram Katha, so whoever was Ram, with Ram, gets glorified. But there's enough glorification of Urmila also. It's just that there are not many pastimes. And that's why you see less about her, because pastimes are not there. And these things are all about pastimes.
And even Prabhuji, since Bharat Maharaj was not there in the palace, even Shrutkirti also stayed without her husband for 14 years.
That's a very good point. Absolutely right, because Bharat was not there. Absolutely right. But at least she was able to see him whenever he came to the palace to do the governing part. But
His wife was Mandavi, not Shrutikirti. Shrutikirti
Even
was
yeah.
okay, right. Yeah, I knew who you meant. That's fine.
So everyone in Ramayana is glorious. It's just because we have lack of times.
Well, no, because lack of pastimes, that's why we don't talk so much about them. That's the only reason. They're no less glorified, by the way.
In Valmiki Ramayana, at one place, Valmiki, I'm not sure if it's Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas, there is a doha which says that Lakshman is glorious, but Shatrughna is even more glorious because
Yes,
Lakshman is serving the Lord and Shatrughna is serving the devotee of the Lord.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. Shatrughna is serving the servant of the servant. As servant of the servant, I should say, of the Lord, which is always appreciated even more by the Lord than his servant. So yeah, I mean they're all very, very glorified.
In Ramayana, they all are MVPs, Prabhuji.
Well, they
There's
are.
no single character which you can say that
But
less. Everybody,
remember, absolutely,
even Jatayu, everyone.
absolutely, great characters, great characters. I mean that's why the whole Ramayana is about Maryada, and that's why I'm talking personality by personality differently, like how they showed their Maryada. All of them.
Prabhuji, there's also for Shatrughan, he said that because Bharat, everyone doubted Bharat, right? You know, that he was Shatrughan, though everyone doubted, but even if, you know, like everyone, he didn't doubt Bharat at all. He was so determined that no, he's my master.
Correct.
Shatrughan. For
That is correct.
Shatrughan, I'm saying that everyone doubted Bharat, but he never. Yeah.
Correct. Also, it helped him because he was with him anyway. So it was a little bit easier on him, but still, you're right. He never questioned the intent of Bharat. So, I mean, and that was the pairing done. That's why, remember the story I was saying that in the crib, when they were put together, only when Bharat and Shatrughan were in one crib and Ram Lakshmana the other crib, that they became quiet. Otherwise, they kept trying.
Prabhuji, I was just waiting that maybe when Mother Sumitra lifted up the veil for Mandavi, sorry, Bharat's wife, I always, Shrutakirti, she again said that I give you my son.
Yeah, so I can only tell you what I read or hear. I didn't read or hear that, but I'm sure there's something similar, yes. They were all very dedicated to Lord Ram, all of them. Okay? All right. So now the curtain is rising again. Scene 2. So there is Mother Sita. She doesn't have a rope, so she's going to use her own hair to tie on a branch of a tree to hang herself because she's had it with the threats of Ravan and not Lord Ram not coming and all that. And she's there to give up her life, or ready to give up her life when Hanuman shows up. Now, Hanuman is scared that if she sees him as a monkey, she would think that one of the demons has been sent by Ravana in a disguise and will not trust me and will become even more scared. Then it was, if I show up as too small, then I won't be able to convince her with power. If I show up too big, she'll faint. So what do I do? So what he did was, he jumped up on a tree and hid himself on top of the tree behind these leaves. And he started singing the glories of Lord Ram. So with my horrible voice, I'm going to try and singing. And please, I invite all of you to join. It's very simple. It's Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Now, if there's somebody in the Zoom land here who's a good singer, if you want to sing it for the next 2 minutes, I would invite you to do that. Anybody who thinks you're a reasonably good singer, just sing this for 2 minutes and everybody will join you. Rather than me leading.
The same thing.
Yes, just
I'm
just
not
one line.
very
Just that one
good,
line.
but I can try. I can do.
Siya Ram. Siya
Siya
Ram.
Ram, Jai Jai
Jai
Ram.
Jai Ram.
Ram,
Ram.
Siya
Ram.
Ram,
Siya Ram. Jai Jai Ram.
Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram,
Jai
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 Ram.
Ram. Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram, Siya Ram, Siya Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
मंगल भवन मंगल हारी
Rabahu
दशरथ
Satashivatar
हारी
Ram,
राम
Siya
सिया
Ram,
राम जय
Ram,
जय
Jai Jai
राम राम
Ram.
सिया राम सिया
Ram, Siya
राम जय
Ram,
जय
Jai
राम.
Jai
He was singing so nicely and with so much devotion. Mother Sita dropped her plans to commit suicide. And she said, "Who is this person singing? Please present yourself." So at that time, Hanuman jumped off the tree in a normal sized monkey
First into the ring.
so as not to scare her. And he introduced himself as the servant of Lord Ram. Well, she was still very, suspicious. She was not believing him. So he presented to her the ring that Lord Ram gave him to give to Sita. And he said, now Hanuman is very intelligent, so he wants to make sure she understands that he really is representing Lord Ram. And also, he was very conscious of the fact that Sita is thinking, I don't know whether Ram is remembering me or not, what is his condition, and so on and so forth. So, he puts the ring on the floor, says, Mother, this is for you. She picks it up and she sees this. And Hanuman says, usually, Mother, this ring is on Ram's finger. But these days he has lost so much weight in his separation that now it fits his wrist. Now, this was a very special ring. It is said that once Lord Ram and Sita had a fight. Hard to believe, but this is how it's written. So once they had a fight, this is back in Ayodhya, and they did not speak to each other for 3 days. One day, Mother Sita dropped that ring from her finger on the floor, and Lord Ram picked it up and gave it to her. And he was on the floor, she was standing. He gave it to her, and they looked at each other and they smiled. And that was the beginning of, again, no more not talking and speaking to each other. And that was the ring that united Mother Sita and Ram again, that they started to each other. So by sending his ring, Lord Ram is basically giving a message to Mother Sita that, look, Sita, if your ring can do this, that we start to talk to each other again, just imagine what my ring will do. Basically saying, guaranteed, we are going to meet very, very soon. And that was Hanuman's thing. So, well, Hanuman needed to give a little more of his introduction. So I'm going to switch the scenes and talk about Hanuman's pastimes. And I'll come back to this place where he's standing in front of Mother Sita in Ashok Vatika. Now, I will run out of time. So I apologize for that, but it's very hard to do 2 different pastimes in the hour and 30 minutes that we have. So once again, apologies. Anyway, who's Hanuman? Well, different places talk about different things. So in one place it is said that actually Hanuman is a partial expansion of Lord Shiva. Well, how did that happen? So you go back to the story of the churning of the ocean. When finally the nectar had come out, Lord Shiva had already drank the poison that came out. And Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu appeared as Mohini Murti to distribute the nectar. And she gave all the nectar to the demigods, but Lord Shiva wasn't there. And then he heard the whole story, and he was told that Mohini incarnation was so beautiful that everybody got totally mesmerized. And Lord Shiva said, I can't believe that. I will never be mesmerized by anything like that. So he went and prayed to Lord Vishnu, said, please allow me to see your Mohini form. And Lord Vishnu smiled. He said, no, Shiva, you don't want to do that. And he insisted. And Lord Vishnu said, okay, fine, I'll show you, but I told you, I warned you. He said, it's okay, I can control myself. So Lord Vishnu appeared in the Mohini form. And the moment Lord Shiva saw her, he went crazy. He started chasing her. And of course, she ran away and they were just chasing her. And he was so excited. He actually expelled his energy, to use a polite term. And that was put in a pot and then established in the womb of Anjana, who's Hanuman's mother, by the wind god Pavansut. That's why it's called Pavansut also. In some places it says actually that the payas, the sweet rice that was given to the queens of Dasharath, a few drops, fell on the floor by Mother Kaushalya. And an eagle came, picked it up and dropped it in the lap of Anjana, who then gave birth to Hanuman. So that's another story. Well, who's Anjana? She was actually a long story, but let's just say for a brevity that she was a apsara, a damsel in heaven. One day she went to fetch water from a lake, and she saw these Gandharvas, which are the most beautiful demigods, who are very good dancers and singers. They were frolicking with girls and boys together. They were frolicking each other, and she saw them, and she became very lusty herself, looking at their beauty and their activities, and therefore she got late bringing the water to the rishis that she was serving. But not only that, in that lusty mood, she started touching these rishis in a very undisciplined manner and jumping here and there like monkeys. So they cursed her to become a female monkey. Well, nothing like a curse to make you sober again. So she became sober again, apologized, said, please don't do that. And they said, well, we can't take the curse back, but we bless you that you will have a very, very powerful son. And they instructed her to marry a monkey by the name of Kesari. So that's why Hanuman is also known as Kesari Nandan. Nandan means the son. Anyway, does anybody know what the word Hanuman itself means? Anybody? What's the meaning of the word Hanuman?
Question? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say, Prabhu?
Yeah, please do, of course, anybody.
So when Indra...
No, what's the meaning of the word? Just...
It's a chin, whose chin got hurt.
It's broken chin, yes.
Yeah.
So that's the literal meaning of the word itself. And as Mother was going to say, it's like cracked chin. So, and that happened when Indra threw his thunderbolt at Hanuman as he was going to devour the sun. And the story basically is that as a very small baby, Hanuman asked his mother Anjana for some food, and she said, go and get some fruits. So he looked up and saw sun, and he thought that was a fruit. So he flew up to gobble sun as if it was a fruit. This also happened to be the day of solar eclipse. So the planet Rahu was rushing towards the sun to eat it. So there will be solar eclipse. And he was shocked to see someone else wanting to grab and eat and swallow sun. So he ran back to Indra and said, look, this is going on, you have to stop it. So Indra came running. Hanuman saw him on his elephant Aravat running towards him, and he thought this was another fruit, a white fruit. So he ran to swallow Indra and the elephant. Indra got scared and he threw his thunderbolt at Hanumanji that cracked his chin, and he got the name Hanuman, and he went somersaulting to the ground and he fainted, almost dead. Well, his father, Pavan, the wind god, saw that. He became extremely upset that Indra will hit a small baby. So he hid himself in anger in a cave and stopped blowing. So now nobody can breathe. The demigods can't breathe either. So they all came with Indra to wind god, apologized and said, we will not do this again, the misunderstanding. And they gave a lot of benedictions to the baby Hanuman. One of them said, he will be so powerful he can lift mountains with his bare hands. Somebody said, he can fly high in the air. Brahma gave a benediction. He was there as well. He said, this boy will never have to fear Brahmastra. Everybody fears that, but this boy will not have to fear that. The sun god said, you will never get sick and I'll give you education later. Indra gave benediction that no thunderbolt will work on you ever. And that's why it's known as Bajrang Bali also. That the Vajra, the thunderbolt, does not work on his body. Anyway, so after the baby Hanuman got all the benedictions, now he became very powerful with all these powers. He became very naughty. And as babies, children do, causing also some mischief. And he will go into the river, to the river, and he'll see these sages taking their bath with their clothes on the shore. He will steal the clothes. Or sometimes he'll steal them and throw them in the river so they'll get all wet. Or sometimes he'll go under the water and pull the legs of these sages as they chanted Gayatri. So they got really fed up and they cursed him. They said, you will not remember any of your powers until someone specifically reminds you at an opportune time. So as a result, Hanuman became completely unaware of his powers. Until Jambavan reminded him of his power when there was a need for someone to jump over the sea. So you all know this story, I won't go into the details. Sita had been identified by Sampati that she's in Lanka, and the issue was how to make sure somebody needed to jump over the ocean. Jambavan said, in my younger days I would have done it, but I can't do it now, I'm too old. He said, Angad, you can do it. Angad said, I can fly there, but I'm not sure I can fly back. And Hanuman just sitting there saying, I can't do this, I'm just nobody. And then Jambavan looked at him and he said, Hanuman, you can do it, you have the power. And then Hanuman suddenly remembered that he does have the power to fly over the ocean. I'll come back to that pastime, but that's how he remembered that he could do it. Anyway, going back to his childhood, once he went to his mother, Hanumanji, as a child, and he said to his mother, I want some education. And she recalled sun god saying or promising to educate Hanumanji. So she said, go to sun and approach him and ask for education. Tad vidhi padipatene parprishne sevya. Go serve him and get education. So he went as the sun was on his orbit. So you know that sun is on the chariot, and at that time there were 60,000 sages sitting on the chariot with the sun, being educated by him. So when Hanuman approached him, he said, I don't mind teaching you, I promised you already, but there's no room on this chariot. And I'm moving. And you know that the sun moves at the speed of 14,000 miles per second. And sun said, you have to fly at that speed so you can be in sync with me and you can listen to me. So Hanuman said, fine, no problem. So he's flying at the same speed beside the chariot of sun god, and sun god gave him the education on same thing that he got from Krishna. Anybody remembers that? What I'm referring to?
What? Can you repeat the question?
What education did Krishna give to sun god? That sun is saying, I got it from Krishna.
Gita.
Gita. Very good, Sudevi Mataji. Yeah, in chapter 4, text 1, what does Krishna say to Arjun? He says, Imam vivasate yoga proktavan aham avyayam vivaswan manuve praha manu ikshakve abravit. So he says, I gave this knowledge to sun god many million years ago. So the sun was referring to that. He said that I'm going to give you that knowledge, and he did. And Lord Hanuman had the memory that if he heard something once, that was enough. So remember it for all times. Then I'm going to skip some of the pastimes because it's getting very late. But when Lord Ram and Lakshman were looking for Mother Sita, they were walking towards the mountain that Sugriva was on. And Sugriva got scared that his brother Vali had sent some people to kill him. So he said to Hanumanji, go find out who these people are. So Hanumanji took the form of a Brahmin, Vipra, and he showed up there. So what I read was that the word Vipra, which in local language means a Brahmin, but the Sanskrit meaning is the one with Vishesh Prapti, which means somebody who is capable of getting special things. So what was the special thing that Hanumanji got, not just for himself but for other people also? So it is explained that Hanuman got, for Sugriva he got the friendship of Lord Ram. So Lord Ram and Sugriva became friends because of Hanuman. And the other monkeys got the devotional service unto the lotus feet of Lord Ram because of Hanuman. So that's what he got for them. And for doing that service, Hanuman got Lord Ram himself. So as that Vipra, he met Lord Ram, he offered his obeisances, and they had a conversation. But the point I wanted to make was that when in the form of Vipra, the Brahmin, he offered his obeisances, Lord Ram did not bless him. But when he came back to the original form of the monkey as Hanuman himself and offered his obeisances, Lord Ram blessed him and hugged him. And the moral of the story being, if you try to be somebody which we are not and serve Lord, the Lord is not pleased. Only when we are in our own original form, without any duplicity, and serve the Lord is pleased. Anyway, so going back to the story where Jamwan has reminded Hanumanji that he has the power to fly. So they were at a place called Dhanushkoti. Has anybody been there by any chance? To Dhanushkoti?
Yep.
Oh, you've been there.
Yep.
Do you remember the ride you had to we got a ride on a jeep to go there? It's like the most scary way to go there. Anyway, so that was still there. So that's where they were when Lord Hanuman made his jump to what do you call it? To
Lanka.
To Lanka. Yes, thank you. So it is explained that when he jumped, he went on a small mountain that's there, and he jumped very hard. So he pressed the mountain so hard that actually bent like a bow, and Hanuman shot off like an arrow from Lord Ram in the air, and he was flying. And then some second thoughts started to come to his mind. He says, what if I can't jump all the way and I fall in the ocean halfway? And he said, he hit himself on the head a couple of times. He says, what am I saying? What am I doing? I'm the son of wind god. He will carry me over. But then he condemns himself again. He says, why am I thinking like that? I am chanting the name of the Lord. I'm the servant of the Lord. I can do anything. I've been inspired by my Guru Jambuwan. Why would I not succeed when the holy name of the Lord Ram is there with me? And then with confidence he went. Well, there's a problem. Whenever we want to perform devotional service, there's something called impediments that love to come in our way. Has anybody experienced that? Any impediments in anybody's devotional life?
Yes, Prabhu, so many.
So many. Okay. So Hanumanji had 3 of them. A very powerful impediments. And they were initiated by the same demigods who wanted to have Lord Ram go kill Ravan so they'll be safe. And they are the ones causing the impediments. So they asked ocean to do something to stop Hanuman. So ocean asked, there was a mountain underneath called Manak mountain, which was basically mountain of gold, and said stop Hanuman. So this ocean there, the surface is there, water is there, and suddenly this mountain appears, and Hanuman was flying so fast that he basically collided with the mountain, and it was with such great speed and force that the whole mountain bent down and went back under the sea, under the ocean. And then he came back again, but this time as a human, in a human form, I mean. And he said, "My dear Hanuman, I want to serve you." He said, "I owe a debt to your father Kesari, who saved my life once." I said, Indra at one time was going around with his thunderbolt, cutting the feathers of all the mountains so they could not fly anymore. And your father, Kesari, threw me under the ocean and kept me there and saved my life from Indra. So I want to repay my debt and I want to serve you. So please allow me to repay that debt and he offered him a cave to rest, and he offered all the gold and everything. But Hanumanji said, "Look, I'm on a mission in the service of my Lord Ram." And he touched the the arm very lovingly and said, "I've accepted your gift. Now please let me go, I cannot wait." And he left. Well, as he was flying, there was a second obstacle in the form of Simika, who had the potency, a very mystical potency of grabbing anybody whose shadow fell on the water. And then by grabbing that, pull them down. So she saw the shadow of Hanumanji and she grabbed it. And that stopped the movement of Hanumanji. And he said, "I don't understand. Why can't I move forward anymore?" He looked down, he could figure out what happened. So he came down. And she said, "I have to put you in my stomach." And he said, "Well, I'm on a mission. Let me finish my mission. I'll come back, then you can put me in your stomach." She said, "No, I got to do it now." And there was a big battle. And in some places it says that she increased her size and he increased his size. Anyway, suddenly became very small, entered through her mouth into his stomach, and then cut it all up from inside and came out. And what explains is that Simika represents envy. Because an envious person doesn't see who he or she is harming, just sees the shadow of the person, which means the qualities, and holds on to it, hoping that the person will fall in the water, which means fall down. Envy is the worst kind of anartha because it pulls the person who's envious down as well. So if you had to use 2 letters to spell the word envy instead of 4 letters, you would say capital N, capital V. Envy. But envy also means no vacancy to Goloka Vrindavan. So if we envy, we don't get any entry in the Goloka. Krishna does not like envious people. Not allowed. So that was the moral of the story there. Then, sorry, somebody has a question? Okay. The third obstacle was Surasa, who represents pride. So she stopped Hanuman also and said the same thing. "Before you proceed, you must enter my mouth." And Hanuman said, "I'm too big for you." She said, "No, you're not." She increased the size of her mouth. Hanumanji doubled it. She doubled it. He quadrupled it. She quadrupled it. He made it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. That competition went on. And suddenly, Hanumanji changed his size to the size of a mosquito, entered her mouth, came out of her nose and said, "Look, I've fulfilled your condition. Now let me go." So as Surasa was showing her pride, Lord Hanuman showed his humility by taking a small size. And actually that reminds me the definition of humility. I forget who I heard it from, but somebody in ISKCON obviously. And he said, humility is not thinking less of oneself, but thinking of oneself less. So then don't take yourself so seriously. Don't think you're such a big shot. Don't always talk about yourself. So just to repeat, humility is not thinking less of oneself. So don't have to say, "Oh, I'm the most fallen, I can't do anything, I'm no good, I'm just a rascal." No need for that. That is not humility. So you are who you are. Hanuman is what Hanuman is. But it's not thinking less of oneself, but thinking of oneself less. Don't talk about yourself so much. Don't brag so much. Don't show off so much. That's what humility is. Humility is competing with yourself to make yourself a better version of yourself, not competing with others to show them how much superior you are. So that's the moral of that story. Anyway, so Hanumanji reaches Lanka. He's amazed how beautiful this is. But right at the gate, he's met by a Rakshasi, a demon, female demon, whose name is Lankini, who says, "Hey, where are you going?" And Hanumanji says, "I'm going to Lanka." She says, "You can't go." And they have an argument and he slaps her. Just very gently. She falls down, she's bleeding, but she stands up, starts smiling and laughing. She says, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had a benediction that whenever a monkey slaps me, I will be able to give up my service to Ravan. So today is the day. Thank you for doing that. I wish you all the best." She left and Hanumanji went inside. And after going to different places, now he's back at Ashok Vatika, which is where we started, that he's introduced himself to Mother Sita. And he assured her that Lord Ram, as soon as he gets back there, will come with his army and kill Ravan and take her. And then he said something very interesting. He said, "My dear Mother Sita, I am your son. You don't have to wait for Lord Ram to come here. I am strong enough that if you sit on my back, I will fly across the ocean and I'll take you to Lord Ram." But she refused. She said, "No, you are my son, no question about it. But I cannot touch a man other than my husband Ram. Therefore, I will not sit on your back. Also, there are many Sitas captured in Rama's kingdom, Rama's palace. I want them all to be released. So I would like Lord Ram to come so his glories can spread throughout the world and Ravan can be killed and then go." Okay, it's 9:32. I'm going to take another few minutes to talk about some pastime that I really like. So please tell me you're okay with that. Otherwise, I'll stop right now.
Okay, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Absolutely fine, Prabhu.
Huh?
Okay.
100% okay.
Yeah, okay.
Going, Prabhuji. Keep
Thank you,
going.
thank you. So,
Prabhuji,
now,
1 hour should be fine. We are okay.
I'm sorry?
1 hour is okay for everybody. It
Oh,
is
thank you. Thank you, Nandimukhi.
okay. Oh my goodness.
Thank you so much.
Very nice.
Okay, so now imagine the scene. Ravan has been killed. Sita has been invited, brought back to Mother Ram. She's gone through her, Agni Pariksha, which is the test through fire. And now it's time to go. So Sita and Ram are sitting there saying, "We have 2 days left before 14 days are over. And I'm really worried that Bharat will not wait. If I'm late, he'll kill himself. So I have to get there in 2 days. How will we get there? Walking through all these forests and mountains and everything, it's too far." So Hanuman said, "My dear Lord, don't worry. I'll put you on my shoulders and I'll get you there well in time." Vibhishan was standing there and he said, "My dear Hanumanji, please, you don't need to take that trouble. Why do we have this Pushpak Viman? The airplane that belonged to Kuber, the treasurer of the demigods and a stepbrother of Ravan. Ravan had forcibly taken away this airplane from his stepbrother Kuber and was using it. And Vibhishan said, this airplane runs on mantras and has the mystical quality that it can accommodate any number of people. If you want to put 2 people, it will be that size. If you want to put 2 million people, it will be that size. So please come on that and it will get you there." So they agreed. Everybody was boarding the plane, but Hanuman was standing on the side. And so Lord Ram said, "Hanuman, please come, join us on the plane." And Hanuman said, "No, I'm not coming." He said, "Why? Why don't you come with me?" He said, "Well, I'll come there if you assure me that there is this Ram Katha going on in Ayodhya all the time. The pastimes of Lord Ram are being discussed all the time in Ayodhya. And Lord Ram said, I'll be there myself. So why are you worried? And Hanuman said, no. I don't need you as much as I need to hear your pastimes, your Katha. Ram Katha is more important to me than you are. And then he explained, he said, my dear Lord, wherever you are, there may or may not be Ram Katha going on. But I know wherever your Katha is going on, you will be there. So that way I get both. So therefore, unless you can assure me there will be Ram Katha going on, I'm not coming. And he was basically referring to a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, a very famous verse, which says Lord Krishna is saying to Narad Muni, is saying, Naham tishtami vaikunthe, yogi namapi hridayeshua, tatra tishtami narada, yatta gayanti mad bhakta. Krishna is saying to Narad Muni that I don't reside in Vaikuntha. I don't reside in the heart of the yogis, but I always reside wherever my pure devotees are chanting my glories. So Hanuman is depending on that. He said, wherever there's Katha going on, you'll be there anyway. So I get both. He said, so unless you assure me Ram Katha will be going on in Ayodhya, I'm not coming. So Lord Ram said, okay, I guarantee that will be going on, so don't worry, come. So Hanuman joined them. Let's see what else I want to say. When they got to Ayodhya, Lord Ram, one day they were alone, and he said to Hanumanji, Lord Ram said to Hanumanji, tell me what benedictions you would like. I am so happy with all the services you have done for me. I want to give you something. So please ask for a benediction. And Hanumanji said, please my Lord, promise me, give me a promise that lifetime after lifetime I will be a monkey and you will tell me to serve you. Please let me attend wherever Ram Katha is going on and make me Chiranjeevi, which means immortal. Not so I may enjoy my body or my senses, but so I can hear Ram Katha, your pastimes, wherever it is happening. That was the level of devotion of Hanumanji. And when you think about it, like Hanumanji did stuff that Lord Ram did not. He is the one who created the friendship between Lord Ram and Sugriv. He is the one who crossed the ocean first. He is the one who found Sita. And he was so humble. And when he returned from Lanka, having met Mother Sita, and he saw Lord Ram, he started shouting right from the air before he even could land properly. He said shouting. And I'm going to say it in Hindi and then I translate that. He said, Paliya, Sita ko maine paliya. Which means found, Sita, I. Which makes no sense in English. But what he was saying was that the most important thing of what I've done, what has happened, is a Sita. I found, which was my mission. Who did I find? Not just anybody, but actually I found Mother Sita. And it was done by me, which is the least important part. The most important part is the mission is successful, found. And it's been more successful because the real objective was Sita, found Sita. Which is kind of interesting, as somebody was saying, that in today's age, everybody puts I first. And Hanumanji was putting I last. So I think it was Amrendra Prabhu, but I'm not sure. He was saying, in these days it's iPad, iPhone, iPod, iPad, and even when you're doing WhatsApp or something, you put a small I, autocorrect makes it capital I. So that's the age of Kali. But Hanumanji, I came last. The most important thing was completing the mission of Lord Ram, and he did that. Okay, one final pastime, then I'll stop. Oh, I forgot to mention that another thing he did for Lord Ram was he brought Sanjeevani Bhuti, the medicine that Lord Lakshman needed when he had been made unconscious by Meghnad. So it was not Lord Ram who went, Hanumanji who went and brought that medicine for him. And this whole story about that, but I don't have time. Anyway, final pastime. One time Mother Sita was so happy with Hanuman's service that she took out a necklace that's called Naulakahar, which means it's worth 900,000 whatever currency it is, gold coins, let's call it. And she gave it to Hanumanji. Now Hanumanji is a monkey. He doesn't understand the value of, the monetary value of whatever. He just thinks it's something Mother Sita has given to me. So he goes to his cave and he starts breaking it with his teeth. Like every diamond that's there, every other gem that's there, he's breaking it with his teeth. Jamwan happened to be there and he said, Hanumanji, what are you doing? And he said, I'm breaking these pieces to see if Sita and Ram are inside. And he said, I don't want to have anything, I don't want anything that does not have Sita Ram in it. So Jamwan started joking and he said, what about your body? There's no Sita Ram in that, but you have it. And Hanuman said, you don't think so? And with his nails, he tore off his chest. He opened it and showed that Ram and Sita are residing in his heart. That is the devotion of Hanumanji. Okay, I'm way over time, so I'm going to stop and open it for any questions or comments or realizations or corrections.
Yes, Pitashri. Oh my God, really? You completed Ramayana in 1.5 hours. Oh my goodness. Thank you. May Radha and Madan Mohan bless you always, Pitashri.
Thank you. I need that.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
From starting to end, the whole Ramayana is done.
Hare Yeah.
Very interesting.
Amazing. Really amazing.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Papa, I want to ask one questions to you.
Go ahead.
About this Ramayana. And I'm too hurt in, like you said, Ramayana. When we say Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman, Bapa ki Jai, or Shiva, Parvati, Ganpati, Bapa ki Jai in Hare Krishna temple or anywhere, from Zoom or anywhere. And from there they say, don't say those.
Don't say?
Don't say Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman, Bapa ki Jai. Don't say Shiva, Parvati, Ganpati, Bapa ki Jai.
So who said that and why?
They said that some of them don't like it.
No, so I think what you have heard is something different. Nothing to do with the word Bappa itself. So basically our philosophy is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just like we water the roots of a tree and the whole tree is nourished, when we serve Lord Krishna, all his incarnations and everyone else is automatically worshipped. So therefore there is no need to worship. There is no need for any diversification. You just chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and you say Jai to Lord Krishna, and that's sufficient. So the point is, they're saying don't get distracted by saying Jai to the demigods and all that. Now you can say Lord Ram Jai. It's no problem. Like
I am saying that Ram, Sita, everybody to Jai and Shiva, Parvati, Ganpati, Bappa ki Jai. From 1 year I was saying. From 1 year I was saying in the Zoom and everywhere. But today somebody called and said from the temple they don't like it.
Well, so again, as I'm saying, in the temple we are worshipping Radha Krishna, but in some temples we are also worshipping Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanumanji. For example, the Mumbai temples, Radha Ras Bihari, that has Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanumanji. There are many other ISKCON temples where we are also worshipping Sita, Ram, Lakshman, Hanumanji, and it's totally approved by Srila Prabhupada. And over there, regularly you say Sita Ram ki Jai, Hanuman ji ki jai, right?
Yeah.
Because they are in the temple as deities. In other temples,
Yeah.
they're saying it is not necessary because the deities are Radha Krishna deities. You just say jai to them.
Yeah.
Lord Ram is already glorified.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today, for example, we are glorifying Lord Ram. So you go ahead and say Sita Ram ki jai as many times as you want. We'll sit here and
Yeah.
watch you say that.
Yeah.
It's no issue. And if anyone
Yeah.
objects to that, you tell them to speak to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
She's saying, you're on.
Yeah. Over there is this.
Yeah, no problem with it.
It's okay.
Sure.
She was here, that's why I talked to you.
No problem. Siya Ram ki
Yeah.
jai.
Ram.
No issue with that, mother.
Yeah.
No issue with that. It's just that on a daily basis we don't do that. Because when we say Krishna Ji
Yeah.
ki jai, Sita Ram jai automatically is there. They're non-different. They're totally non-different.
Yeah.
We do not discriminate between Ram and Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay?
Ram is a Krishna and Krishna is Ram's son.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have just maybe I don't know much of the thing, but once Lord Ram returns, to Ayodhya, we don't hear about other brothers like Lakshman or other pastimes. We don't hear.
That's correct.
We don't hear anything.
That is correct. So basically, two things. One is there's only so much you can write.
Yeah.
However, actually, this is going to take a little while to answer the question. The original Ramayana, anybody knows how many verses were there in the original Ramayana?
24,000 somewhere.
No, that's the final version.
Oh.
Anybody knows?
10, 12 you said, right?
I'm sorry, Mataji?
Shatakoti, Prabhu?
Sorry?
Shatakoti?
Actually, yes.
100,000.
Yes, mother. Yeah, you're right. 100 crore. 100 crore verses. So that's, I don't know, 10 million is 10 lakh.
Shata is 100, Prabhu.
10
100
million.
crores, you're right.
No. So 10 million is 1 crore. So 100 million verses
Yeah.
in original Ramayana. So that had everything. However, that's too many. So it was given to Lord Shiva, who was reading this, and he said, you know what? I cannot be the only person. I have to share it with other people. So he took 33 crores and he gave to the upper world, upper world basically. And 33 crores to the middle world and 33 crores to the lower world. That left 1 crore, 33, 99, 1 crore left. I was happy with that. Then he said, Mother Parvati said, okay, you're fine now? He says, yeah, but I need to distribute more. So he took 1 crore, which is 10 million, and he took 3.3 million and gave it to the upper world, 3.3 to the middle world, 3.3 to the lower world. Now he was left 100,000. I said, that's too many. So then he divided again. 33,000, 33,000, 33,000. And 1,000 left. That was too many. Mother Parvati saying, look, can't keep at least that much. Says, no, I can distribute. And again, 10, 30, 10, 30, 10, 30. Now 10 left. I said, no, that's too much. So 3 given, 3 given, 3 given. 1 left. That was Ram. So then Shivji chants only the name Ram. That's his whole Ramayana. But he does hear Ram Katha wherever he can. And he does Ram Katha to Mother Parvati and all that. But he himself chants only one word. Anyway, my point was that there were a lot of verses that we don't even know what they said. So that's one point. The second point is that whenever you write history or you write the play, you tend to focus on the main character, which is Ram and Sita. So Tulsidas, for example, is stopped after Mother Sita was exiled. There is no mention of Love and Kush in Tulsi Ramayana. It is mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana. And then this whole other set of stories about Love and Kush. And then they stop. So the pastimes of the main personalities are described. The side pastimes are described because again it becomes so big. Even 24,000 verses, a lot of verses. So that's the reason. It doesn't mean they didn't have pastimes, but they were considered secondary pastimes. And not having any ego, them being themselves Vishnu Tattvas, neither Bharat nor Shatrugna had any problem with that. They were just happy serving their Lord Ram. Okay, so I hope that answered the question.
Also, I think
Yeah, thank you.
in the Uttara Ramayana, I think we still have some pastimes. Like after arrival, Lord Lakshman was sent to exile Mother Sita to forest. So we see Lakshmanji.
Right.
Then after the horses were captured by Love and Kush, then also all the brothers, they go and try to free the horse.
That's in Valmiki Ramayana, yes.
Uttara, the extension, I think it's other than the original Ramayana as far as I mean, it's been long.
I thought about Tulsi Ramayana?
No, from Valmiki Ramayana, I think they have an extension now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That in the pastimes of Love and Kush are described.
Yeah, I think it's Sutra because I was a child when there used to be Ramayana at home, and I remember someone from something.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
And also, Prabhuji, the last pastime that you just mentioned, the pearl necklace pastime. So it's a very beautiful message that Hanumanji gives us, because he was told by the other people that no, it's a valuable thing. It's a price. It's a
priceless.
Precious thing, priceless. So he says that priceless, so there should be Ram and Sita in it. So then he starts checking. So he gives us a shortcut that if there is no Krishna, if there's no Krishna consciousness, it's all trash.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, what one may consider expensive jewelry has no value to a devotee. Yeah. Devotee's wealth is Radha Krishna, Ram, Sita, Ram, etc.
Even Prabhuji, anything, not even jewelry. So we do a lot of prajalpa. So we can always recall that if there's no Krishna, it's trash. So we can just, remind ourselves and.
Yeah. The funny thing is, even those who don't care about Krishna think that's trash, but they do it anyway. That's so much fun. Right?
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was beautiful as always.
Thank you, Beta. Any other questions or comments?
Comment is the best. We enjoyed.
Oh, thank you, man.
Very nice.
Thank you so much.
We enjoyed really with full interest. Can move our face left.
That's right.
Fully attentive.
Yeah, we are very happy to come back, and I can see everyone is like glorifying, like as if we were part of it.
Prabhuji, it was like, the way we all used to see the Ramanand Sagar Ramayana with
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
exactly,
please.
it is the same way.
We were all glued up like that.
Thank you. Very nice of you to say that. Okay, all right. So I guess that's it, huh? Okay, thank you again, all of you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Once again,
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpataru.
Vyo namo. Jai Ho.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
thank you, Pitai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Beta.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mother. Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.